Kojo was the kind of man every parent warned their daughters about. He was very tall, handsome, and with a natural charm that could melt even the hardest heart. He had a reputation in Accra that followed him everywhere. Kojo wasn't a thief or a troublemaker, but he was dangerous in his own way, dangerous to hearts. Women whispered about him at the market, and men laughed, warning each other to keep their sisters away. But Kojo didn't care. In fact, he enjoyed the attention. Every weekend, he found himself in the arms of a different woman, making promises he had no intention of keeping. He thought life was just about fun, pleasure, and the thrill of the chase. He would say to one woman tonight, "I will marry you. You remind me of my mother." The next day, he was introducing another woman to his friends as the love of his life. His mother had tried to complain to him and begged him to just pick a wife, but he wouldn't listen. He would always say, "Mama, I haven't found the perfect girl. When I see her, I will know, and I will marry her without looking back." Years had passed, but he kept repeating the same thing. All these girls are not up to my standard until this particular day. It was a calm Saturday evening, the sun casting golden light over the streets of Accra. Kojo was on his way to see a new girl he had been chasing when he saw someone that made him stop in his tracks. She was unlike any woman he had ever seen. She wore a simple white dress that seemed to flow like water, and her beauty was almost unearthly. Her eyes held a quiet power, and when she looked at Kojo, it felt like she saw right through him. Kojo, the master of smooth words, suddenly found himself speechless. She smiled softly, and for the first time in his life, Kojo felt his heart skip. Her name was Abena, and from the very first moment, he was drawn to her like a moth to flame. Something about her was different. She didn't flirt, didn't act impressed by him, and didn't fall for his usual charm. If anything, she seemed amused by his attempts to impress her. Day after day, Kojo returned to the spot where they first met just to catch a glimpse of her. Slowly, they started talking. Abena was calm, thoughtful, and wise. She had a way of making Kojo reflect on his choices without saying too much. It was as if she was holding up a mirror to his soul, showing him the man he truly was. Kojo began to change. The other women in his life noticed his sudden silence and absence. They gossiped and complained, but Kojo didn't care. For the first time, he wanted just one woman. Months passed, and Kojo knew he couldn't let Abena go. He asked her to marry him, and to his joy, she agreed. The wedding was small but beautiful, and the entire town was shocked. Kojo, the womanizer, had finally settled down. People whispered that Abena must have cast a spell on him, but Kojo didn't care what anyone thought. He was happy, truly happy, for the first time in his life. Soon, they had a son. The boy was full of life, always laughing and bringing joy into their home. Kojo loved being a father. He had never imagined himself as a family man, but now he couldn't picture life any other way. Abena was the perfect wife and mother, caring for their child with a quiet strength that made Kojo respect her even more. But something about Abena was still a mystery. Sometimes, Kojo would find her sitting outside late at night, staring at the moon as if listening to a distant song. When he asked, she would just smile and say she was fine. Kojo didn't push her, but deep down, he knew there was something about her he didn't fully understand. He would always say, "I haven't met anyone from your family. Take me to them at least so they can see their grandchild." But she would always smile and say, "When the time is right, they will visit." One afternoon, Kojo had gone to the market to buy food for dinner. Abena was at home playing with their son when there was a soft but firm knock at the door. Abena froze. Her heart began to pound. She recognized the sound, though no one else could have. Slowly, she stood up, picked up the child, and walked to the door. When she opened it, there was no one there. just a rush of wind. But in that moment, everything changed. Abena looked back at her child one last time, kissed him on the forehead, and in an instant she was gone. Her body dissolved like mist, leaving behind only silence. Kojo returned home to find the door open and his child crying on the floor. He called out for Abena, but there was no answer. Panic gripped him as he searched every corner of the house, then ran to the neighbors. No one had seen her leave. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks. Kojo searched everywhere: the markets, the coastline, even the forests. He asked the elders, the pastors, the traditionalists. No one could explain what had happened. People whispered behind his back, saying perhaps she had run away, or perhaps it was punishment for all the hearts he had broken in the past. Then, one night, an old woman in the town came to see Kojo. She told him about the spirits of the sea, water beings who sometimes walked among humans, taking human form. Some came to bless, some came to punish. She told him Abena was not an ordinary woman. She had seen his reckless ways, his disregard for women's hearts, and had chosen to teach him a lesson. Kojo was heartbroken. He realized Abena had been sent to change him, and she had succeeded. She had given him a love so deep and pure that it made him abandon his reckless life. And then she was taken away, leaving him with the child as a reminder of the man he had become. From that day, Kojo was never the same. He poured all his love into raising his son, teaching him to respect women and treat people with kindness. He stopped chasing women completely. Instead, he began talking to young men in the town, warning them about living recklessly and taking love for granted. Kojo's story became a lesson for everyone. Mothers told their sons about him. Fathers warned their daughters to be careful with their hearts. People said that Kojo had been touched by the spirits, and whether it was a curse or a blessing, no one could say. Years later, Kojo's son grew into a wise and responsible man. Whenever people asked him about his mother, Kojo would tell the story with tears in his eyes but also with pride. He would say, "She came to teach me a lesson, and though it hurt, I am grateful." The story of Kojo and Abena became one of the most told stories in Accra. It carried a simple but powerful message. Life has a way of teaching lessons, sometimes in the most painful ways. Kojo had been careless, and fate gave him a love that changed him forever, a love that left him with a lifelong reminder. I hoped you enjoyed this story. Besties, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We release interesting stories like this every week. Until next time, bye.